Okay, it says now setting up your meeting for Facebook Live.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
No worries.
Stuff happens.
Yeah, we know.
No, it's not perfect.
That's putting it mildly, huh?
See,
happens.
like for me, I can't go live from my iPad. So I can go live from my iPhone, but not from my iPad.
Oh, we're live. We're live, you guys.
Says we're live.
Yeah,
Oh,
see?
good.
I don't get
Well,
anything
good
yet.
morning, St. John. So I can go live from my iPhone, but not from my St. John. We're just so glad that you're joining us today. And we're going to introduce ourselves as members of the Care Creation team. I know we function as a committee, but we call ourselves a team because we're working together collaboratively to kind of change our focus, to bring consciousness to care of creation and the issues that surround that. And so we have 5 of our members of our team present today, and we're going to go around and introduce ourselves and kind of why we are part of it and how that informs our theology. So my name is Carolyn. I'm a vicar at St. John's. I have a long interest in creation, probably back to the 70s. I don't know if I can claim to go all the way back to 1960, but definitely when I was in high school, I was very active in a nonprofit called Ecology Action, and we advocated for bike lanes and recycling back in the early 70s, trying to address what was going on in our environment that we saw at the time happening to our world. So team members, how would you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Nancy Bukowski.
Okay, I'll call on you.
I'm Nancy Bukowski, and I've had a long history of being involved in care of creation, particularly animals, over my life. But starting about 30 years ago, I got involved with a lot of other things. And my main focus comes from Matthew, when Jesus said we should love the Lord God with all our heart, soul, and mind, and our neighbors as ourselves. And I feel that if I am not doing something to help save the earth, then I'm not following that, particularly my neighbors in Africa, wherever, so that they can have food, and animals so that they can have eggs and everything else. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Who's next?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Huber. Many of you know me because I've been around the church for almost 30 years. I choose to sit on this developing team because of my professional work, and that includes combating climate change issues and reducing our energy dependency on fossil fuels. I have seen firsthand that caring for our creation has become more political than religious. And politically, we are definitely divided. However, as Christians, I believe in our biblical standard to live by. As early as Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, God says he entrusted this world in our care. So I believe caring for God's creation is one of the fundamental things that we as Lutherans should do.
I'm Holly. I am part of this team because I've always, to my core, believed that we should leave a place better than we found it. So starting with cleaning up my toys and other kids' toys as a child, to now making it my professional interest and my personal passion to conserve the Earth's energy and the environment around us, so that future generations have something to enjoy. As a Christian, It's pretty simple. I don't like to overcomplicate it. God gave us many blessings on this earth in front of us, from the resources to the beautiful views. And so I feel that it's our duty to love and appreciate all of those blessings. So I'm part of this team to try to push that.
Good morning. This is Karen Olson. I think today's invitation to worship was a good summary of how I approach this and why it's important to me that the earth is the Lord's and we live in the earth, and so we need to be good stewards of the earth, but also in a joyful, loving way, because it's so beautiful and so wondrous to us and supports us and sustains us, and we need to make sure that it sustains the whole of humanity. That's from a personal perspective, but also from my work in public health. I've been looking at working to address how we build our communities so they're more sustainable, but also not so detrimental to those communities that are most vulnerable among us.
Well, thanks, everybody. This
Mark?
is Carlson. I guess I'm last on the list here for the moment. I was a preacher's kid, and my dad would take us up into Snoqualmie National Forest from Yakima on Mondays when we weren't in school to decompress. He decompressed and he got us out of the house. And I really treasured those intimate moments with nature and solitude. He took us when I was 5 years old to see Celilo Falls shortly before it was drowned by the Dalles Dam, which had its own purposes for flood protection and economic benefit and energy benefit. But I experienced loss through watching my father grieve that at a young age. And I carried that into high school with influences from Sunday school teachers, a volunteer at Tri-City Ecology Center in Fremont, went off to Bethany College, helped organize the first Earth Day. That's the Lutheran College in Lindsborg, Kansas. We didn't have protests, we had teach-ins, and they were a lot of fun and very memorable. Went off to study Swedish environmental politics and policy for a year. Actually got a graduate degree in environmental studies up in Missoula following that, and worked on energy policy in Kansas for a while, came back to California, and had parallel careers with CAL FIRE, very intimate experiences with nature and God's creation, and with the Lutheran Office of Public Policy. And now I'm finding my engagement with Lutherans Restoring Creation and the larger church. The larger church has always been a part of my experience through my father and his work, and being part of, wondering what the church was saying about God's creation from actually from early adolescence to this point. And we're still engaged, and I so value what the ELCA is doing, and independent groups like Lutherans Restoring Creation, and now the energy that this group has brought to our congregation, St. John's. Thank you.
Yeah. So one of the things we had planned for today, which because of the COVID-19 virus we weren't able to have, was our Earth Day here. Many vendors, urban gardeners, pollinators, naturalists. We were going to promote some electric vehicles, many things that we could do to take as steps, both individually and corporately as a community of faith believers, to improve our environment. And we did not cancel that event. I just want you to know that our team is committed to it, and We are hoping to host the event October 4th if there's nothing else conflicting with that time slot. But we will have an Earth Day fair, maybe not on Earth Day, the 50th anniversary, but we will have one this fall. And so I hope that you look forward to that opportunity within our community. I want to invite anyone, if you have any questions or any of the scriptures today, to post it on our Facebook page. And we have Rebecca with us, who is helping us facilitate that discussion. And so we're going to look at the Psalm 16, because that was such a beautiful rendition of it musically. So we're going to do a Lectio Divina style meditation with it and discussion. And we invite each of you who are participating on this Facebook Live to post comments and participate in giving us your feedback. So could we have the first reading of Psalm 16?
Yes, so I'm reading from the King James Version that I got in my Bible way back when I was in 8th grade in confirmation. So Psalm 16, preserve me, O God, for in thee do I put my trust. O my soul, thou hast said unto the Lord, thou art my Lord. My goodness extended not to thee, but to the saints that are in the earth, and to the excellent, in whom is all my delight. Their sorrows shall be multiplied, that hasten after another God. Their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names into my lines. The Lord is in the portion of my inheritance and of my cup. Thou maintainest my lot. The lines are fallen unto me in the pleasant process. Yea, I have a good heritage. I will bless the Lord, who hath given my counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. I have set the Lord always before me. Because it is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to another corruption. Thou wilt shew me the path of life. In the presence of fullness and joy at the right hand, there are pleasures for evermore.
Now take a minute and see if a word or phrase now. Do we have a second reading?
This is my mother's Bible. It's the Revised Standard Version, so a little bit different. Preserve me, O God, for in thee I take refuge. I say to the Lord, thou art my Lord. I have no God, no good apart from thee. As for the saints in the land, they are the noble, in whom is all my delight. Those who choose another God multiply their sorrows. Their libations of blood I will not pour out, or take their names upon my lips. The Lord is my chosen portion and my cup. Thou holdest my lot. The lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. I bless the Lord who gives me counsel. In the night also my heart instructs me. I keep the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad and my soul rejoices. My body also dwells secure. For thou dost not give me up to Sheol, or let thy godly one see the pit. Thou dost show us me the path of life. In thy presence there is fullness of joy. In thy right hand are pleasures forevermore.
Now take a few minutes and reflect if there's a word or passage that stands out to you. So I'm wondering if there's a word or passage, team, that stands out to you.
Carolyn, in the Lutheran Study Bible that I have, the first verse is, "Protect me, O God, for in you I take refuge." And I think that line, "protect me," is pretty relevant to today, and probably a lot of people can probably relate to it as we pray and hope for protection from the coronavirus, and for ourselves and for our families and for all of the community.
Yes. Anyone else have a word or phrase?
I think combined with that, I know in the version that Elizabeth just read, there was a quote around, my flesh is in hope with you. I think the overall of this, especially with today's situation, is that we are very much on this physical earth, and we have to turn to God for that protection of our flesh and our environment around us. And I know verse 11, you will show me the path that leads to life. Your presence fills me with joy and brings me pleasure forever. Just that protection, that hope, and the path is with God, and will bring us joy and pleasure when we follow him.
And a segue to what Holly is saying, in verse 5, when David talks about the hope of resurrection and life everlasting, that touches me, especially during this Easter season.
I'll go back to verse 3, and it references, as for the saints in the land, they are noble. And I'll just take it's on my great-great-great-grandfather's headstone, Hebrews 12, surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. And it's not front and center, but when you dig into the history of Lutherans, there's some pretty amazing connections with naturalists and conservationists. I think of somebody from St. John's Lutheran Church in Charleston, South Carolina, when I visited there briefly, who was a member of that church, was a friend, and I don't remember, it was either Audubon or Roger Torrey Peterson, the birders. But people like that, people at the seminary and the college in Rock Island who helped establish nature preserves along the Mississippi River, the riparian woodland, as well as people who engaged in developing the social policy and the care for creation theological understandings of the Lutherans, long before the ELCA came together as, a merger in the 80s. It was really deep roots in that. So I'm grateful for that. And I think that verse speaks to that.
Any other comments?
I'm not saying a whole lot
for me,
because I've got bad allergies, so forgive me today.
That's okay. I know for me, what stood out was the phrase, in the night, also my heart instructs me, because I find that God really talks to me in the middle of the night and actually kind of wakes me up from a dead sleep to get me into action. And so that phrase today stands out. Okay, so we'll read it one last time.
Carolyn,
Yes.
you mentioned the verse about the heart, and that was a tough call for me, but I do want to say, since you introduced it, Colbert on the global network, 3 networks or all the networks together last night, talked about how we think we can understand how what's going on through science, but when we ask the question why with the coronavirus, that those are really, and he is a person of faith, as a reverend as he is, but he said those are really matters of the heart. And so that got me thinking last night. I didn't wake up in the middle of the night, but about matters of the heart, and that speaks to faith and seeing through the eyes of our hearts, and through faith. Thanks.
Yeah. So we will read this a final time. We'll take a moment of reflection, and then we'll enter into discussion. I follow what's being discussed on Facebook. And what is kind of beautiful is that a lot of people who are with us right now, they are creating gardens. And so as we read this the 3rd time, let's think of nature, that backyards where we're creating gardens, or we're creating waterfalls, or whatever we're doing, how this relates to our theme today, which is care creation. How is God speaking to us through this scripture? So our 3rd reading.
Right. This reading is from the Good News Translation Bible, so it will sound a little different than some of yours. All right. Protect me, O God. I trust in you for safety. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. All good things I have come from you. How excellent are the Lord's faithful people. My greatest pleasure is to be with them. Those who rush to other gods bring many troubles on themselves. I will not take part in their sacrifices. I will not worship their gods. You, Lord, are all I have, and you give me all I need. My future is in your hands. How wonderful are your gifts to me, how good they are. I praise the Lord because he guides me, and in the night my conscience warns me. I am always aware of the Lord's presence. He is near and nothing can shake me. And so I am thankful and glad, and I feel completely secure because you protect me from the power of death. I have served you faithfully, and you will not abandon me to the world of the dead. You will show me the path that leads to life. Your presence fills me with joy and brings me pleasure forever.
So what are we hearing in this psalm about nature?
For me, the 2nd verse, I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. All good things I have come from you. I think all of us feel a connection to God through the environment in different ways, but ultimately it is because all of the good that comes from the earth is blessing and made by God.
God will keep us safe, but at the same time, we have to join with him, and that's what he expects of us.
Yeah, there was one that I have served you faithfully, and you will not abandon me to the world of the dead. I think is that calling to action for me, to serve faithfully and to ensure that we don't end in a world of debt or, lose those resources and those blessings, is by acting and serving faithfully.
And
Something we
serving-
talked about, and I've been reflecting on. Sorry, Karen. I'll go and then I'll finish my thought, and then you can. Is when we talked about this as a team. The third verse says, "As for the holy ones in the land, they are noble, in whom is all my delight." And one of us had a insight there that said, what if the holy ones they're talking about is from our natural world? What if they were the trees of creation, the rocks, the minerals? And I've really been thinking a lot about that. The into it, and as people of God, what we're called to do. Karen, I'm sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. Well, I was just going to add on to what Holly was saying about serving and acting. And I think that's a motivation for all of us here, and probably a lot of other people, that we feel a responsibility to care for the earth and one another. And then I was going to say something about what you just said, but it left my mind. Oh, that I think there's other religions that particularly ascribe souls to plants and animals, and we may not express it as much, but I think we all recognize the value of all the living things. And we can refer to the Native Americans in particular in our area about how they revered everything that was living, and just encompassed it so much as a part of their life, and valued every bit of it, and respected it for in the past, and respected it and cared for it so that it would be there for the future generations.
I think, especially in respect to that, the earth was not looked at as this just tangible thing. It was a connection to spirit and faith, and really treated as a being of something that needs respect and love. And I think that kind of.
I'm sorry, Holly.
No, go ahead.
In adding to that, we have a song, Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. It doesn't say all human beings. It's all creatures. So the creatures are expected to praise God too.
Even the green things that grow, I think, was one of the verses in that song.
I noticed that we have a few comments on Facebook. Greg said he loves the images of wildlife reappearing in the natural parks. I hope the earth can continue to heal. And that was something that gave me such hope when I was reflecting on my sermon, is this whole idea that Yosemite is being taken back over by nature, that the bears, they have a lot more bears right now, and they're just meandering around. There's no people print where Yosemite has become so small that nature's able to expand.
I went to the Capitol Park recently, just walking by, and the roses are bigger than I think I've ever seen them, and they're just growing. And I think it's one of those things where, to me, it's just they have the space to grow and they're not being impacted as much by individuals. So it's our creatures and nature just starting to bloom and grow.
Someone said they on Facebook that they see it in every yard quotations. That's from Mary. When you're operating a little iPhone, it's not perfect. She says, but all of them are different each day, like the rest of our world. Rocks slowly breaking down over centuries, dandelions sprouting and spreading fluff seeds within mere hours. Someone said their roses are fantastic this year, Holly, just like what you're saying at Capitol Park that you've noticed. Where else are we seeing God?
The stars are brighter.
The stars are brighter. Wow. And so when have you seen that, Nancy? When are you experiencing
just at
that?
night here, because most of the time you can't see very many, but lately you can.
Wow.
Well,
So the light pollution, I mean, think about what we've talked about is less, so that you're able to see the stars.
I also reflect on
Anyone
Romans
else?
8. Oh, yeah, it's Elizabeth. I also reflect, I've been reading with Rachel Romans 8:31-39 this week. And where it says, since God is with us, who's against us? And just like those commenting on Facebook about their gardens, their plants. I also suffer from asthma. And during this last month, even on our family walks up and down M Street, I have not had to use my inhaler, neither has my daughter Anna. And I mean, it brings me back to when we respect and love what God has given us, it comes back to us, threefold. And just the reminder of He gives us what we need. And when we take advantage or abuse what He has blessed us with, we end up needing all these artificial things and other things to keep us healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think
Notice
our
sky is so much more clear. Sorry, Mark.
Did you say clear? Yeah, I think our senses are so much keener in this situation. We're just, we're so hungering for beauty and pleasure, whether it's, cookies and all the people baking, and the wheat rising green in the Midwest. I share 80 acres with my sister, so we're following that. But I have to tell my rose story. So I looked out the kitchen window yesterday. It was fairly early in the morning, and my neighbor has roses along the side of her house, and I help water them. She's a senior citizen, doesn't get out very much. And there was one that was so big and bright, it was blinding. I just almost had to look away. I took a picture of it. And then later in the day, went out, hadn't been out shopping for a couple of weeks. I actually drove around the Capitol Park, Holly, just for old time's sake. Didn't get out. Got some dog food for the neighbor and asked her if she wanted a rose. She said, I'd like a red one. And so she had one long stemmed one shooting way out the top of the bush that I took to her. And then I showed her a picture of this giant one. So, it's, everybody work on their rose story or their bear story. CBS this morning ended with a couple bear cubs and a mom in Smoky Mountains National Park. So it's so powerful that this psalm ends with pleasure and joy, and it's just so welcome these days.
I think
I'm looking at some of.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
I was just going to say, but if you have something to say, I was going to read some of our Facebook comments, but go ahead, Holly.
All I was going to say is it's one of the many positive things to come out of what's going on in the world right now, is that we are longing for that, pleasure, sensation of beauty, and we're able to look outside and see it around all of us. But also just having the ability to slow down a little in life and really appreciate what's around us. It's very easy to get caught up in due dates and deadlines and meetings, that it kind of just passes by. And I think one, especially on a Sunday, but even with kind of the earth being a little bit quieter, with everyone, sheltering in place and things slowing down in a sense, it's awesome to be able to just take a moment to breathe clean air and see all of the things growing around us and nature, unfolding. So I encourage everyone to keep taking pictures of the flowers that they have and sending them. For anyone who's my friend on Facebook, you know that 90% of my posts are of just the environment and flowers. But it's wonderful to see newscastings to get on board with that too, and showing us parks and glimpses of what's going on around us.
So I have a question for Mark. Mark, how are you monitoring the growing of your fields? Do you have like a webcam that you check?
Oh, well, confession, the Mennonite farmer sent a video of him spraying fertilizer and pesticides and all that good stuff. It's not organic. So, but it really looked good. And then since then, my cousin texted me that they had a really hard freeze in central Kansas. She's in western Kansas, and they were better off. But I haven't checked to see what the hard freeze did, but they expected some damage to the wheat crop there. So it's it's a risky proposition, and God bless the people who actually engage in the farming.
I just want to share some of the Facebook posts, and I'd like to invite Rebecca, if I miss any, to pipe in and help us. Kim says, I hear the birds a lot more, just like Vicar Carolyn stated in their sermon today. Thank you, Kim. They see, so I'm laughing at that. Barbara said her favorite viewing spot for the night sky is the Channel Levee off Jefferson Boulevard between West Sac and Clarksburg. I haven't ever done that, to be honest. I don't know if anybody else has, but it sounds absolutely beautiful. Let's see. Barbara says the sunsets are 360 experience. Mary said, we humans are giving nature a chance to catch its breath a little. And that's kind of what seems to be really apparent. We're probably using resources in a different way. So it's not perfect, right? But on the other hand, our skies are getting cleaner across the world. Nature, because we're having less of an impact on the environment, nature is emerging. Let's see. Rebecca, is there anything I've missed? Rebecca's silent, so I'm not sure.
No,
Oh, there she
I was
is.
trying to take myself off mute. No, I think you're doing a pretty good job. I mean, a lot of the earlier comments were focusing on people's gardens, which I think is probably the way in which we all can be accessing creation right now, since so many other spaces are closed off to us in the moment.
Yeah.
I might mention that my wife's the manager of Redeemer's Field at Lutheran Church of Our Redeemer, and she spends, just about every other day, all day there, Good Shepherd on Arden and Morse also has a community garden. So I think these are, special places that mean a lot to their neighborhoods at this time. This morning I got an email from author Sasha Abramsky, and he had interviewed me for Sacramento Magazine about COVID, and apparently that has just come out. I sent him, he wanted photos that he ended up not using, but I sent him a photo of my wife Ann expanding her backyard garden and working in the yard with the dog. But I'm curious to see what's in there, because I'm looking at our Visa receipts, and there's just a lot from Green Acres and Amy Hardware on our Visa card, and those places are, Green Acres is always packed, my wife says, people. So I hope she doesn't bring anything home in a bad way.
Yeah. I looked for seeds, and a couple places. I didn't go to Green Acres, so maybe I need to do that, but they were all sold out. I got like red beets. That's the only seed I could find. And I'm trying a new method of starting tomato plants. I bought it last year at Whole Foods, so I'll report back to the team if I'm having success. It uses less water, and it's a single pot kind of situation. So let's see. Does anybody have anything else you'd like to share as far as Psalm 16 or anything else that God's put on your heart today?
Carolyn, so related to, I was reading something this week that came through the email about commenting on the change that we're seeing, seeing the stars, cleaner air, cleaner canals in Venice that you mentioned on your sermon today. Mm-hmm. And the point that the author of this email was making, that's evidence that human behavior can have an impact. And I think I hope that we can take that forward, that message forward, and remember that as we deal with climate change in a broader sense, because it can be overwhelming. But if we remember that, yes, human behavior can have an impact, then I think that will give us some hope and some motivation. And I hope that we can work on sustaining some of the lessons we're learning during this pandemic, as far as valuing time and nature and one another.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The comment that came through on Facebook about this being us giving nature a chance for a fresh breath, really kind of hit me, because, nature provides us fresh breath all the time. And the only time that we give it a break should hopefully not be a pandemic. We should be able to take this opportunity to really find changes that we can continue to do, and changed behavior, modified behavior, so that we can continue to allow nature its room to grow and breathe, after we kind of go back to our normal lifestyles, really not falling completely back into what we were doing before, but seeing that human interaction does make a difference, and trying to keep some of those benefits of the impact of the environment and how we can help nature continue to grow and kind of heal itself.
I like some of the comments on here as well. People have been sharing on Facebook Live about cutting their flowers and bringing some of their gardens inside the house to enjoy, and that the more walks and hiking that are going on, and that even paths we've taken before, the things that we actually may have missed the first 5 times we walked that path, and the things we're learning and seeing and appreciating, the 6th, 7th, and 8th time around. Kind of that cliche, you're slowing down to smell the roses per se. So I can relate to a lot of what other members have been sharing.
I think if we just look for simple things that we can do, like I found out that I could get my energy from SMUD through wind. It costs me an extra $6 a month, but it's a simple thing I can do to help. And it's not overwhelming. So there are all kinds of things out there that we can do.
I'd like to give a pitch for, what the ELCA is doing in Lutherans Restoring Creation. So please, everybody that's on here, check out Lutherans Restoring Creation and look at the ELCA. I haven't looked at the homepage for the ELCA, but Bishop Eaton sent out a really nice pastoral letter on Earth Day with links to several different resources, and also made an appeal for attention to what I think is really critical, that are still growing into the concern about social equity and racial justice and harmony as integral to this care for creation work. But there's one link to the Parliament, and my email's being jammed with stuff happening this week for Earth Day, as you can imagine. But the Parliament of World Religions is having an online event on Tuesday that's linked in Bishop Eaton's letter. And I was at the Parliament in 2015 in Salt Lake City, and there was a major focus on care for creation with Jane Goodall gave a very moving speech, Mary Evelyn Tucker, the care for creation theologian, Catherine Hayhoe, the climate scientist from the University in Texas, who's also an evangelical and married to an evangelical preacher, great speakers. And the St. John's connection with the Parliament is that Dave Lesher's father, the late Bill Lesher, was president of the Parliament for 2 terms, and during those periods when they were really, coming together in harmony and speaking to the world. So that's Tuesday.
Well, thank you, Mark. I was going to mention that Bishop Eaton had a letter for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, which is just fabulous. I quoted her from her 2018 letter because it calls us to do more than appreciate nature, but that we are here to be good stewards. And as people to kind of reverse what we're doing. So I appreciate that very much. So thank you for Mark. Does anybody have any final comments? We're kind of coming up. We have about 10. Any final?
I just want to echo what Mark said about we are a working team here, and would love to see more of our members at St. John who may be interested in participating. Contact any one of us or Vicar Carolyn, and however you want to participate. We have like Carolyn said earlier, we're going to still hold our celebration of God's creations on another Sunday at church. And we want to thank those who have already been supporting this group, like Karen Ross and Peter Brokstrom, who have volunteered to help and participate on that Earth Day. So we encourage anyone who has questions or want to learn more about what this group is doing to become a formal committee at St. John's within the next year. Please reach out to any of us.
Okay, and Facebook letter for. So if anybody would like to read what our national bishop has shared with the larger church, you can just go to the comments section of this Facebook Live area, and it's put there by our church. So St. John's Lutheran Church has put, it says Bishop Eaton's letter, and you just click on the link and that'll take you to the letter. Anything anybody else would like to share before we? Well, I like our first adventure to do a Facebook Live. Next week, we are going to be a care or creation, reviewing the ELCA social statement. I know that sounds a little dry, but as a team, I think we are collectively agreeing to make it not a dry process, that we want to have a lot of discussion, review it and discuss it. And we'll be doing that for the next 3 weeks at the 10:15 to announce during this time.
Well, I think I got that, Carolyn. You're breaking up a little bit, but can I just say that the social statement was passed in the early 90s. There were predecessor church body social statements that statement built on, and some of those people involved in writing that have actually been through Sacramento over the years, and it's a great, what was the word, noble saints. But there's a word missing in the ELCA statement, and I'll just call for a little treasure hunt, it's not trivial either. It's a very important word, integral to our understanding of our situation, that is highly conspicuous by its absence. So I'll offer a door prize of a Caring for Creation and faith book of your choice. I've got several I could offer for anybody who can figure out what that missing word is that sort of fell through the cracks as this, great cast of thinkers and theologians put this statement together. What's missing?
Mark, should we share your email address for people to get in touch with you about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. But we want them to participate in the, Sunday morning or Zoom study too.
Yeah, the next 3 Sundays, bring your answers, your options.
Yeah. And maybe I'll just hold those to the end, and I might have to buy a box of books.
Mark, that's a great offer. Thank you so much. This is a fitting time. Many of the experts on care, creation, climate justice, some people actually believe that we have gone too far, that we cannot roll back things in our environment. So now is the time for, as people of faith, or even people questioning, as Mark pointed out, this statement is 27 years old. So this was the best thinking in the early 90s, and we are now almost 30 years later. And what is our best thinking today? So we're fortunate to have Mark and Elizabeth and others on the committee, Holly, Nancy, and Karen and Mary, who all expert. And so I invite our larger community to join us next week. You can join me. Will you have a Zoom invitation? Waiting for her to mute. I do. So thank you, Mark. If we're done, I hope everybody has a Sunday afternoon. You're able able to experience, if you're here in California, weather. I know I have a dear friend who lives in Boston, and she took a picture yesterday and it was snowing. So very different weather we're experiencing here on April 19th in the Sacramento region. Anything else for the greater good from our committee, our team? Rebecca, do you have anything to share with us?
No, I think you've done a great job.
Have a
Thank
blessed
you.
day. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
team.
Bye,
You're
everyone.
wonderful. Have a bye.